Number two of the Art Lewis Show. It's an open phone hour, 989-752-6111. And Connor will get you ready to go on the air. And we'd love to chat with you about whatever's on your mind. I want to talk for a moment about speed limits. There was a story today online about speed limits on the rise across the country. There are now, I think it's 9 states that have raised their top speed limit to 80 miles an hour on highways. And there is actually a section of a highway in Texas, I think it's Texas Highway 130. That section of road is 85 miles an hour. We all know here in Michigan, speed limits north of US 10 and including US 10 were raised to 75 miles per hour. But what's happening is it trickles down, and what cities are finding, and rural, local communities on their streets, is that increased highway speed trickles down into town. And what we're seeing across the country is a number of states and communities lowering their residential speed limit to 20 miles an hour. Now, around here, most of our lower residential speeds are 25, and that seems reasonable. I can't promise everybody does 25. I know that's, a pipe dream. But it does slow everybody down. And what a lot of these states are doing is trying to redesign some of their roads to slow people down. Speed bumps and the like, enhanced enforcement in residential areas. So, I have some questions. How fast is too fast? And let's stick here in Michigan. The other states, their roads are different. Their highway systems are wide open in a lot of places. So, 80 miles an hour, I guess, is okay. And they have not seen a severe increase in speed because of it. Now, here in Michigan, I'm not so sure that's true. When our speeds went to 75 miles an hour, it appears to me when I drive those roads that a lot of people are doing 80, some even faster. What they did discover in one state, I think it might have been Nebraska or Iowa, one of those states. What they did find when they raised the speed to 80 miles an hour is an increase in tickets written over 100 miles an hour. And I'm sure we've all been on a highway in Michigan where somebody has blown by us. We're doing 75, and let's be realistic, most drivers do between 75 and 80. They blow by you, and that's an accident waiting to happen. You just know it. And these states that have raised their speed limit to 80 miles an hour have seen an increase in citations for people driving over 100 miles an hour. Because for some people, they have a complete disregard of speed limit signs. They're going to go where they're going to go as fast as they want to go, and rules be damned. And unfortunately, that creates a lot of accidents. One of the biggest causes of accidents, it isn't talked about much anymore, but it used to be talked about a lot. It's called speed differential. When you're doing 75 and the guy behind you is doing 100, he's closing on you fast. Reaction times decrease. And it is one of the arguments put forth that has to do with truck speeds. Because invariably truck speeds are set a few miles lower than car speeds on most highways. On a 75 mile an hour road, trucks may have 65. On a 70 mile an hour road, they may be restricted to 65 or 60, 55 in some cases, depends where you are. But that creates a speed differential and can lead to accidents. So the question is, and we'll stick to Michigan roads because it's what we drive all the time, is 75 miles an hour sufficient if you're heading up north? Once you get north of Bay City or you're going east-west on 10, which are fairly wide open roads, is 75 miles an hour sufficient? Should we raise the speed limit? Or would you like to see it go back to 70 where it was for a long time? What do you think? And what about city streets? Some streets, bigger thoroughfare streets through, for example, Saginaw, are anywhere from 30 to 50 miles an hour. But most residential streets are 25 miles per hour. Now, I've seen reports with people with speed guns checking the speed limit in residential areas, and it's rare to find somebody actually doing 25. Many people are doing 28, 29, but there are those that do 35, 40, total disregard of the speed sign. So what's a safe speed limit? What would you like to see on Michigan highways and in local streets? I don't have a problem with the 25. I think that's fine. I have a problem with speed limits that don't reflect the condition of the road, good or bad. Let me give you an example. Let's take State Street through Saginaw Township. State Street through Saginaw Township is a 40 mile an hour road. Question: how many people are actually doing 40 on State Street? And every police agency has a speed tolerance. And usually it's a high tolerance because they want to get the people that are really reckless at it, as opposed to stopping somebody doing just a few miles over the limit. So they're more in tune to paying attention to drivers who, let's say, are 10 or 11 miles over the speed limit than they are somebody who's 4 or 5 miles over the speed limit. And every department's different. They all have different standards. And I'll tell you this. If in Michigan you believe 10 over is the tolerance, and let's say you're right, and then you travel to Ohio and you have that same feeling, you're in trouble. Because in Ohio, it's 5. And if you're driving 10 over, you're going to get stopped, particularly if you got a Michigan plate. All right, we're going to take a break and come back. We'll talk to Cynthia in Midland when we return. But right now, give you a chance. All right, we're back with you here on WSGW. Open phones for the remainder of the hour. And we begin with Cynthia in Midland. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning, Art.
Morning.
I'm going to start this off by giving a controversial speed limit number, and then I'm going to enjoy the rest of the show this morning. But I remember, I'm old enough to remember when we went from like 70 down to 55 on
1974.
Yeah, and I was really frustrated because I was going to be starting to drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? with everybody going so fast, I have to say, especially on, I think it's the state roads that are now 65, I'd like to see those go back to 55 when you're on a 2-lane highway. And the reason I say that is really because of wildlife and deer.
Yeah, especially this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's just more deer out there now. And my father was from up north. He trained me to watch for deer eyes, as he called them. But yeah, I'm I'm one of the people that would rather see it slower. So I wanted to kick off your hour by saying, let's drive 55 to arrive alive.
Well, I tell you what, Cynthia, that's a fair comment, particularly since you restricted it to the 2-lane state roads.
Right.
Because you may have a reasonable good case for that. I've been on some of those roads, and I often question, is the road built for that speed limit? But
exactly. But
this time of year, particularly, I would like to see, even if it wasn't a permanent reduction, this time of year, in the same way that in the spring they have weight restrictions on trucks, I think maybe they ought to have a deer season speed restriction for a couple of months, simply because they are out there and they're moving around.
They are. And that's always my point of consideration. And so I do try to drive, in the right-hand lane and stay within the speed limit, or sometimes a little less depending on weather conditions. But I wanted to throw out the 55 and see if there's anybody else out there.
Well, it's not as controversial as you think. I think it's a reasonable assessment.
It is, but when you're driving, 85 down on 75, kind of coming in there down into Troy, you start seeing everybody passing you, and you think it's not a reasonable suggestion anymore.
All right.
Have a great season, Art. Appreciate the show.
Thanks, Cynthia. Bye-bye now.
Take care.
Bye. And here's Alvin. Alvin is in Saginaw. Morning.
Hey, how's it going on? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm like the callers just hung up. I don't think they should raise it, because I'll tell you, I go up to Augraves once a week for work, and I was doing 75. I tend to just set my cruise because I don't like $100 tickets. If I'm not paying attention, it'll move up. So I kind of set it. But there's this guy last week. I'm going 75, and I guess I'm in the fast lane. And I can see him coming up behind me like a cop, almost. He's going so fast, and then he drives my bus, so I slowly get over into the left-hand lane, and he just let loose the flying bird. And I'm thinking, I said, what? Seriously? And I can't believe it. There's always when you raise the speed limit, everybody's always going to push it. Because if you go 80, I guarantee you, 90 is going to be the average for a big chunk of the people. And I just think they should keep it the way it is.
All right.
That's all I wanted to say.
Fair enough, Alvin. Drive carefully.
All right.
All right, buddy. Yeah. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Here's Mark at Breckenridge. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Art. How are you, sir?
Good.
Hey, my thing that I would like to see change with roads is grooved pavement. I don't have any success with grooved pavement. In the summertime, you can drive, and if you're driving, you can feel your car swerving back and forth.
Yeah.
And then in the wintertime, that ice or a little bit of snow melt gets in there in those grooves, and then as soon as the temperature gets below 30 degrees, and it starts to form that ice, and, man, you're sliding all over the place. So even in the summertime, you're fishtailing a little bit, and then in the wintertime, it just makes it even worse.
Well, they're good. I'll tell you when they're good. They're good when it rains because they do move the water off. But what I'd like to see, the Henry Marsh Bridge in Saginaw, the state put a special coating on it from the curves on the west side through to the east side of that bridge. Because it used to be, when it iced up, man, there were accidents continuously. The city police department lived up there with accidents. Since they've put that coating on that road, hardly any. it really, really works. And it's not grooved. It's just some kind of coating that adds friction to the road surface, and it's worked.
Yeah. It's like when I was on the aircraft carrier, it's like that type of coating that they put on for the aircraft carrier deck there.
Mm-hmm.
But they did that in Bay City, and the only thing is it has to be reapplied because it seems like they put that down 2 years ago, and it's already it does a good job. You can feel the difference with your tires adhering, but however, it does come up over time. So I don't know what the resurfacing for that to do.
I don't know.
The
one in the city
on or something.
The one in the city, I don't know that they've recoated. I'll have to ask next time. I have a meeting once a month with MDOT. I'll have to ask about recoating that, if it needs to be recoated and how often, because it's really good. I mean, it is really good.
Yeah. And then the other thing I'd like to see is the paints on the roads have some sort of glow-in-the-dark paint on there. That blacktop, when it's wet, it's next to near impossible with your lights, if you have the halogen lights, to see the whiteness in the road. If they made a glow-in-the-dark paint, that would be great to help out with.
Some of them they've put down.
The
some of them they've put down these little markers that reflect. I've seen that on a number of roads, but I agree with you. I'd like to see those lines really shine.
Yeah. And then a lot of exits don't even have the mile per hour sign. A lot of vehicles use GPS and stuff like that go by the speed limits. And when there's no speed limit sign posted, like you get off at Pincana there, or Pinconning exit there, there's no signs there when you get off there. It says what the speed limit is. So you default back to 35, and you got cars on your passing you and stuff. You don't know what the speed limit is.
Yep.
So,
all right.
But anyhow, that's my rant. All right.
Good
Have
enough.
a good one.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Yep. Bye.
And we'll talk to Dave in Bay City. Dave, good morning.
Well, good morning, Art. Calling you from I-75 northbound at the 191 mile marker just north of Sterling, following traffic with my cruise set at 82. And,
Now, wait. Now, you're following traffic at your cruise set at 82.
Correct. Yes.
Interesting.
Got as many passing me as I'm passing. So I'm at the median speed right now, and I'm quite comfortable with that. But so here's what I would like to see done with the speed increases, and I think 80 would be fine. But when you get these yahoos, and I had one a couple weeks ago, I was between Saginaw and Bay City on 75, got my cruise set at 78, following traffic, and I hear a crotch rocket coming up beside me, and this guy had to be going 100, and I have a Trump sticker on the back of my Mustang, and at 100 miles an hour, this guy turns around to flip me off, and I was just waiting for a wipeout, but he didn't, thank goodness. For the ones that are going that kind of rate of speed, there needs to be serious penalty.
Yeah, listen,
to enforce it.
You pull somebody over at 100 miles plus an hour, there needs to be stiff fines, stiff penalties.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe double the points and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Something like that. But the speed is not the problem, and forgive me, previous caller, drive 55 to stay alive. That creates a real hazard. If people are going too slow, that also needs to be penalized seriously.
Speed differential is, But she was talking on
the killer.
She was talking on 2-lane state roads during the wintertime when deer were moving around. So she had a reason for it, which it was not an unreasonable thought when you think about it. But it's not going to happen.
Oh yeah, you've got to be ultra aware, and I'm saying that as a survivor of a motorcycle deer crash. So, and I probably was not as aware of it as I should have been at that moment.
Yeah.
But, your situational awareness at all times. especially if you're on a bike.
Good enough, Dave. Appreciate it. Drive carefully.
Thanks, Art.
Take care. Bye-bye now. And we'll take a break, come back. We'll talk to Shelley in Sanford right after these notes.
We had a webinar a couple days ago. They're hoping to start filling it April 15th, weather permitting.
Good.
And there's, depending on what happens with the weather, how it starts to fill, if they run into any problems while it's filling, hopefully it will take less than a month to fill that all the way up to Wixom. So there's a hope in the air here in Sanford. We're very pleased with our Representative Schuette, who just got us I believe it's 9.6 or 9.8 million
additional.
To offset, yes, some of that cost us homeowners. So we're very, very thankful to him and all of our representatives that work so hard to get that. So yes, there's hope in the air. If you guys ever want to come up and see what it looks like, they just cut down all the brush.
Well, that's good.
So you can see a clear shot to the dam and exactly what they're doing every day. At least I can.
That's good.
Yeah, so there's hope.
You'll be our reporter on scene.
Yes, I look at it every day when I open the drapes and sit down to work, and I think, hey, there's the last 5.5 years. I've been praying and hoping, so it's finally coming to fruition. And
okay, so I distracted you. So what did you want to call about? I distracted you.
Hey, yeah. Well, there's a couple things. One is I really, really enjoyed your interview a couple weeks ago with Sheriff Fetterspiel, and they were putting that concert together.
Which I'm glad you reminded me. All right, let me interrupt just for a second. I'll go right back to you. But that concert, as you may or may not know, was canceled. However, Sheriff Fetterspiel, since he had his band assembled and is going to have his sound guys all taken care of and everything, is going to do a free, what he calls concert/dress rehearsal at Holly's Bar and Grill at State in Midland. And that's going to be this Wednesday from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. It is free. And they're going to be performing some Bob Seger, Tom Jones, Elvis, Huey Lewis and the News, even some Backstreet Boys and Bruno Mars music. So he's going to take everybody over there to Holly's, to which I said, Bill, where are they going to put you? You got a 10-piece band.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's going to be inside or outside, but it's going to be packed, yeah. But it is a free concert this Wednesday, October 15th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. at Holly's Bar and Grill. So I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up.
So, I did get my refund, and I actually called the school to find out. They said, low ticket sales. But I will tell you, the inside scoop, I believe, on the low ticket sales was the day of your interview, about 10 minutes after your live interview, I went on to that ticket site to buy a ticket because I thought, man, for this cost and for those performers, they're going to be sold out. Went on the website and immediately, they're selling other venues, not just that concert. Scrolled to that venue and it said sold out.
Really?
And I'm like, sold out? Dang it. And I'm like, how come Art would have a live interview if the tickets were sold out?
Yeah, because they weren't, because we knew that. Because
they weren't. It didn't resonate with me, so I called the school, and they got on it right away, but it was several hours before that website was able to be repaired. And I'm thinking, okay, so there's 500 people that immediately went out after Art's interview to get tickets, and they were all told it was sold out.
Yeah,
There's
boy, I didn't know
way
that.
To get a hold of those people, to say, hey.
I had no idea.
And now, in retrospect, I should have called the station and said, hey, you might want to announce, and I'm sorry I didn't do that, but I really believe that was the problem because I had several friends that called me later in the afternoon and said, hey, we tried. We listened to Art. It was sold out. And I'm like, it's not sold out.
Yeah, that really answers the question because I was surprised that it wasn't sold out. I was absolutely surprised that it wasn't sold out for a couple of reasons. One, he puts on a great show, but two, for a great cause. They're going to indoctrinate this brand new auditorium. The money's going to go to the school district. I thought that was a natural. And when they didn't sell it, I'm going, what's wrong here?
That was it, Art. I got
I'll
to
bet
tell you,
it
I
is.
had so many people calling me saying, we listened to Art's show. We went out there. We were all going to go together, and I was shocked that, of course, like I said, in thinking back, I should have called and said, hey, the website was down. It was saying it was sold out for hours and hours when it wasn't.
Yeah. Well,
So that was it. I'm positive that was the clinker to
I would
not
agree.
having a sold-out show.
I would agree.
Jumping to the highways. I'm in Sanford, and I go up US 10 east and west every day. For the most part, I think 75 miles per hour is good. I would, as previous callers said, during deer season, those deers are still coming across US 10 a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to be aware. But for the most part, you do have the occasional, and I go up US 10 all hours of the day, night. You do have the occasional guy that has to blast by you at 100 miles an
Well, of
hour
course.
in his big old pickup truck.
And that, I'll tell you what, it
but
makes
that's
no
every
difference.
highway.
It makes no difference what the speed limit says.
Right.
It could be 50
Right.
and he'd
So-
still do it.
If they're blasting by me, I'm like, hey, I'm in the right lane. You go for it, buddy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say a prayer that you don't get hurt
Yeah.
and you don't hurt anybody else.
All right.
The other thing is I come into Thomas Township on Gratiot a tremendous amount.
Yep.
And I will say that is the only township I feel safe driving in up and down Gratiot with those big semi-trucks, because Thomas Township, I don't know what they're doing, but they got it nailed. Those semi-trucks drive professionally. They drive within the limit.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
see
there
a
was-
lot of traffic hazards.
It's an enhanced enforcement area. And
What does that mean?
And it means they enforce more than other areas.
Normal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Matter of fact, when you come from the other direction into Saginaw Township, going west on Gratiot, there is a sign that says this is an enhanced enforcement area. Means there's more
Okay.
eyes looking at you, and they're a little more less tolerant on speed.
Yeah,
So
I'm
they've
always
managed to
very
control it.
pleased that the boys
Yeah.
in blue in Thomas Township got it down pat. For whatever reason,
right.
they're doing a good job.
Shelley, got to
anyway,
take a break.
long-time listener to the show. Love
Thank
all
you.
the programming, and
Appreciate it.
God bless. And like I said, you ever want to see firsthand in Sanford what's going on, give me a shout.
All right, Shelley. Thanks. Bye-bye
Yeah,
now.
take care.
Lucas, hang on. We'll get to you next.
Since 1947, Clayton Cleaner.
Let's get back to our phones in Saginaw. We find Lucas this morning. Lucas, good morning.
Morning. How you doing?
Doing well.
All right. Well, I'd like to say, first-time caller, long-time listener. Love your show. Love
Thanks.
your even keel, your level-headedness. All
Appreciate it.
good stuff.
Thanks.
But I do have a controversial opinion on the speed limit,
Yeah.
and I'll explain why. The technology in vehicles nowadays has been just going through the roof. I mean, we have cars that pretty much drive themselves. We have all kinds of driver assist. I personally would like to see the speed limits from Bay Street North abolished, completely gone. If everyone could handle the concept of the drive right law, which is actually a law in Michigan. You're
Right.
supposed to drive as far right as possible, depending on your speed. Now, people that are driving 65 on the highway and they're in the fourth lane, that could cause issues. So,
Yeah,
like
well,
I
they
said,
had,
it's a controversial. Go ahead.
This is not a new concept. It is for Michigan, but it's not a new concept in some places of the country. I think it was Wyoming that had proper and reasonable, and so there was no number. If
Right.
if you could do 100 miles an hour safely, you did 100 miles an hour. They eventually, if I'm not mistaken, they got rid of it, and I don't know the reasoning why, but they did finally move to a number. I don't know if the federal government forced it or if they felt that there were too many problems with it. But there was a reason. I think the term was reasonable and proper, and
Gotcha.
and so it was left to your goodwill. I think, yes, I agree that cars today are technologically advanced, and they certainly handle a lot better than vehicles of the past. And now with lane centering and all of that fancy stuff you can get on an automobile, you probably can drive them a lot faster and a lot safer. I don't know that I'd want a free-for-all. I just because speed differential is the killer. And as you say, if you have people in the left lane who are going slower and you got somebody coming up behind you at 100